From the outside looking in, Andy Gibb, the little brother of pop music superstars the Bee Gees, appeared to have it all. A promising career.
You had the ultimate teen idol. The long blonde hair, the tanned skin, shirt out to the waist, the hairy chest, the works.
Unprecedented milestones.
He was the first solo artist to have his first 3 singles go to #1 in Billboard. I mean, you can't ask for better than that.
Beautiful women.
There was nothing for me not to adore. It would have been amazing for me not to fall in love with him.
But underneath Andy Gibb's fame and fortune were insecurities and addictions.
I turned to drugs for a month. I did quite an awful lot of cocaine.
Andy Gibb was virtually born into pop music stardom, but in spite of his achievements, he was always haunted by his tortured soul.
Nothing to lose.
Leads you to where you are today.
I believe in storytelling.
Gonna make you a star.
I'm still trying to figure that out.
1977. Big hair, mirror balls, the age of disco. Saturday Night Fever, the movie, was a huge phenomenon. Its soundtrack, written and produced by the Bee Gees, defined the music of the era.
Saturday Night Fever sold 25 million copies worldwide, and it was 24 weeks #1 on the American chart.
The Bee Gees stood for the brothers Gibb, Barry, Robin, and Maurice. But there was a fourth brother, and he was breaking out in his own right. In 1977, at age 19, Andy Gibb's debut album, Flowing Rivers, sold over 1 million copies. The lead single of the album, I Just Want to Be Your Everything, went on to be the most played song of 1977. Andy was suddenly a top pop heartthrob. Magazines gushed over him, and teen girls plastered his posters on their walls. But Andy had a tough time accepting his great fortunes. He questioned whether he was famous on his own merits or from riding the coattails of his brothers.
I remember talking to Andy about what he saw when he looked himself in the mirror. I said to him, Andy, you have great looks. Women love you, guys adore you. You've got all this talent. You have had such great success. I always felt that Andy just never saw anything in the mirror. He saw an empty vision. And no matter how many times you told him, he just would still see nothing.
It was just something inside of him that didn't realize how fabulous and talented he really was.
On March 5, 1958, in Manchester, England, Andy Gibb was born into a musical family. Andy's father, Hugh, was a band leader and drummer, and his mother, Barbara, had performed as a big band singer. The Gibbs' oldest sons, Barry, and fraternal twins, Robin and Maurice, inherited their parents' love of music as well.
While they were living at Capel Road, the kids were told to turn the radio down, but of course it wasn't the radio, like it was the kids themselves singing. And that was when sort of the parents spotted the talent.
When Barry was 9 and the twins, Maurice and Robin, were 6, they formed a band called the Rattlesnakes and found a movie theater to host their first performance. The Gibb brothers planned to start out by lip-syncing to a record, but fate would prove otherwise.
It was just after Christmas in 1957. They took a 78 RPM record, very fragile, trooped off just around the block to the Gaumont Cinema, and just as they were about to cross the road, one of them dropped it. They had to perform for real. That was the first public performance by the Bee Gees.
Barbara and Hugh corralled their resources to support the Bee Gees' pursuit of a musical career. In 1963, the group landed their first record deal, and by 1966, they enjoyed their first major hit, Spicks and Specks. The Bee Gees made a lasting impression on their youngest brother, Andy. Andy would watch his brothers perform from backstage, marveling at what he saw. Andy dreamed of being a performer too.
When you're young, I think you've got your role models and your heroes and your idols. Andy seemed to have all of these elements in one convenient package, and they all lived under the same roof. Your brothers, the Bee Gees.
And it was his older brother, Barry, who encouraged Andy's love of music. Barry bought Andy his first guitar at age 9.
He was going to be a musician, absolutely. There was nothing else he was going to do. He lived and breathed singing, playing his guitar.
Andy also enjoyed the affluent life that the Bee Gees' success provided. While living on the Isle of Man, a Rolls Royce picked him up from school, and he got to travel the world to watch his brother's concerts.
As a youngster living in the Isle of Man, but he wasn't licensed. He had a sports car, and at 16 years of age was racing around the island. He just had this wonderful joy of living.
At age 15, with his family's blessing, Andy put everything on the line when he quit school to pursue a career in music. He hoped to break into the business by joining his brother's group.
From the age of about 13 or 14, I think his ambition was to become the fourth Bee Gee. It was Barbara that started it, saying, look, get your own band. And I think it began early in the 70s when one of the local music shops started to recruit band members for Andy.
In February 1974, at age 16, Andy formed his own band called Melody Fair. The name was taken from a Bee Gees song.
Melody Fair, that was the name Barbara, Andy's mother, picked. It was a bit girly, but...
The band members wondered if Andy's privileged lifestyle would make him difficult to work with. They were pleased to discover the opposite was true.
He was a lot of fun. He was very energetic. Everything he did, he was 110% into it. And if you straggled behind, then you got left behind, you know, because that sort of a person. It was easy to buy into what he was doing.
Despite being just 16, Andy understood early on some of the industry pitfalls. Andy imposed strict rules upon the band. No drinking or drugs were tolerated before or after performances.
We were at a party, just an ordinary party. And this guy who was a bit out of it asked Andy to roll a joint for him. And I don't think Andy knew how to roll a joint, so he had a go at this, and he was making a right mess of it. And in the end, he just threw it in the air and said, "I can't do that." And the guy wasn't best pleased, really.
The Gibb family felt Andy had the talents to make it big like the Bee Gees. Barry took a special interest in Andy's growth as an artist. He and Andy shared a very unique and close bond.
Barry once said to me, his parents had 2 sets of twins, except there were 12 years separating him and Andy, because he was virtually twinned with Andy, where Morris and Robin, they were, twins.
He talked a lot about Barry. Barry was his idol. To me, he was just a younger version of Barry.
Barry wanted to make sure Melody Fair's performances came off as polished and professional.
He said, you're going to have a proper order so you all know what you're playing. He actually helped us put the list together, and he actually wrote it out, and I've still got a copy of that. And at the very end it says, "Get off." They were good performances. It just worked. We seemed to gel together as a band, and the crowds liked it. We were full every night, and we got applause for every song. We got encores. It went really well.
Melody Fair quickly exhausted its opportunities on the Isle of Man. In 1975, Barbara decided to take the band to Australia, where the Bee Gees had enjoyed success in the 1960s.
She said, "I really think going to Australia would be the best idea because the Bee Gees were still very famous down there."
Andy and his bandmates thought superstardom was right around the corner for them. But the fate of Melody Fair would take an unexpected turn.